Welcome back. It's Index Card Day 2017 with me, Creative Katie. This is card number 25, and it's a day-old prompt, Alice in Wonderland, Every Adventure. Links to supplies can be found in the description box. Don't forget to hit subscribe and check that you'll be notified of upcoming videos. Yvonne, my friend, this ICAD is dedicated to you. And my wish for all of you viewers is that you find a creation ship like this.
Okay, so I am kind of going backwards, and I am revisiting one of the prompts, Alice in Wonderland, and because I had no idea what I was going to do, and then I found a quote from Alice in Wonderland. The Cheshire Cat said, "Every adventure requires a first step." And so I grabbed the parachute and I thought, okay, that's perfect. I have this bright, colorful parachute. I'm going to create a background, and I pulled this brayered paper, and I'm going to add more to that with stencils and the stuff. But just a word about the parachute. My friend Yvonne and I, one of our jokes was that, when I started doing my YouTube channel, started the Facebook group, started my blog, I wasn't absolutely 100% ready to do any of those things. And I joked and I said, I just like sewing my parachute on the way down. And last summer, my friend Yvonne started her business of paint parties and selling her acrylic paintings. And I joked because I kind of felt at the time I kind of pushed her out of a plane before her parachute was done. And she's had a wonderful adventure with her home business. And, I think this is a very apt and personal saying. So anyways, without more to do, I am going to grab some paint.
So one of the things that I like to do is stencil with different colors using the same stencil and just kind of moving the stencil around. This, I find, gives you a lot of visual texture and visual interest. And so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just limiting myself to this spiral stencil. I believe it's a folk art stencil. It's one of my very first ones, and it's much loved. And I will put a link to this in the description box if it's still available. I have used it. Actually, I know it's still available. I've seen it at Michael's. But I have used it so much, and it goes for oceans and water and sky and snow, and it just is one of those very versatile stencils. So what I'm doing is just applying various colors of Dylusions paints. I had the dark blue, and now I'm putting a purple. And I chose the Dylusions because they dry very quickly. Now normally I wouldn't be drying out cleaning my stencil, but my plan is to go to white, and I want the white to be white. I don't want it dirty, so that's why I'm just giving it a quick white. So I'm just putting that on and, got to peek and make sure that it's doing what I want it to do. Now you could apply the paint through every part of the stencil, or you could just do different parts of it and kind of do it spot here and there. Both work. And you can just see the interest and the layers that I'm building up. I think one mistake that I see people making is that they use too many different types of stencils on one particular piece of art. And, if you're using more than one stencil, there should be some cohesiveness in there. They could be all round, or they're all square or geometric. Now I went and I grabbed some white acrylic paint, and I'm at the very, very end of this tube. And I'm going to squeeze out every little last bit. And I'm using that because it is more opaque than the Dylusions paints. And I really want white on here. And I'll just keep going, layering these on until I get a match of what I see in my mind's eye and what I see on the page. So I love what's here. So I grab an ungessoed card, one of my repurposed flashcards, and I'm putting Mod Podge on, and I will just adhere the jelly or the brayered paper with my stenciling on it, on top of it. And the rest will be saved for something else that'll show up. Now I realize that this card doesn't have the corners all rounded, so I'm just lining it up with another one and just rounding those corners. I really like how it just seems to finish them off. You could buy a punch for that, but you know what? We're not limited to having every single supply. So I'm just making sure that everything is adhered down. I always seem to miss a corner. And I'm placing the parachute on here. I decide, I want this parachute to stand out, so I'm just edging it with black, and then I'm edging the card with black as well. Pretty standard finishing detail that really makes a difference. So I have this parachute, and I kind of want it off to the side like that. And I ended up going to my filing cabinet and pulling out a variety of magazine clippings that I had. And so, the last one had a free printable, this one has this, the next one is going to have some more magazine clippings. So if you don't have stamps, or you don't have free printables, or you don't have digital art and stuff that you color, there is a way of doing it. And when I started, this is what I kind of did with journaling by fives, and I haven't really done much of it, despite having a full filing cabinet of all sorts of things that I've cut from magazines. Travel magazines are really good for a lot of adventure and journey type shots, as well as mountains and a lot of the outdoors kind of things. Birds and blooms, gardening ones for flowers and birds and stuff. So but I went and I got them from the recycling place where they'd been already discarded. I took them, I ripped out the pages that I wanted, I cut them, not necessarily completely cut, and then I filed them in my big blue box filing system. And anytime, that I want something, I can just go in there and look. And so since doing the ICADs is all about using what's in my stash, that's one place that I really want to use more things. So I have found that quote that is from Alice in Wonderland. Every adventure requires a first step. Now I'm just going to make this parachute stand out, and I am floating with some black acrylic paint. And there is a mixed media technique tag video of mine that teaches how to do this. And you see me doing this pretty much every ICAD. You can shade in other ways, and that's mentioned in the video as well, but you could use the Stabilo All pencil, a watercolor pencil. Now, you don't just have to do the outside. Here I'm going on, and I am actually adding shading to make things stand out on top of the magazine. Now, what's really important before you do this is that you coat this with a gel medium so that it prepares it for the acrylic paint. Otherwise, it may just soak into the paper and get the paper all gray. I'm toying with the idea of getting the uh, big pit brush markers, where you can use that for adding details to magazine clippings as well as things that you've colored. You can color it, but again, it needs to be a non-porous surface, um, sealed with gel medium. I'm just going around making the letters stand out. I'm going to do some white splatters. Right now I'm cleaning up a blob that happened. Inevitably, if your paint's too thick, that tends to happen. Adding some splatters, and then I'm just going to grab some jelly prints and brayer prints and things that I have just off to the side that I may have used for this, and I'm just taking the leftover paint and adding those splatters on those papers. Just adding one more layer of interest. So it's always a good idea to have, if you have jelly prints, have them at the ready. You can always be adding something to them when you have leftover paint. I especially like doing this to the jelly prints that I don't particularly like. I just kind of give it new life. So once that's dry, I'm getting out my micron pen, and I'm just going to run a line around just to give it a little bit more of a framing. I'm thinking right now that it needs something, but I'm not sure what. I'm going around the quote, touching up some of the letters that they got rubbed off. And then I'm just going to add some details to the parachute itself with the micron pen. So again, you can take the magazine and alter it to fit your purposes. I wanted it to stand out more, and this really worked well. If I wanted a bolder line, I would have used my black Posca pen. But I never really liked the part under the umbrella, under the umbrella, under the parachute, and adding those lines made it work. Here's some close-ups of the finished product. Love this shot. It's bright colors and everything. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next video.